Here we are.
Yes. Hello, tribe. Happy Tuesday. I am coming to you live from Bethesda, Maryland. And for those of you who I don't know, I'm Anjali Varma. I host the Mompreneur Tribe Facebook group where many of you are likely watching this. I am a business coach who works one-on-one with female entrepreneurs. And I also own a Kidville location in Bethesda, Maryland. And today I'm excited to be joined by Malika Malhotra. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So Malika and I have been virtual friends for quite a while, right? We are one of those stories I always talk about where we met, I think on Instagram, right?
Instagram, yeah.
Yeah, so we met on Instagram and then we started chatting and then we ended up meeting up live at a conference in New York last year, which is awesome. And then we do these, we check in kind of quarterly in this kind of a format, live. So it's a great tip for all of you out there. It's like a fun way to have a virtual buddy who is kind of in the same space that I am in, and we keep each other accountable and brainstorm together. So that's how we came up with doing this broadcast today, right, Malika?
Yep, that's right. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I know. So Malika is a brand photographer. So you work with a lot of female entrepreneurs, or just, I guess, entrepreneurs in general. And she has a fairly recent book out, The Brand Photography Playbook. Do you want to tell them about that?
Yeah, so my business is called Miki Photo & Co. I'm in New Jersey, and I actually work only with female women entrepreneurs. I sort of cut the men out and work with small business owners, online marketers, and just really help them develop their story first and then create images that can help them stand out from the rest of their competition in the market. And I recently wrote this book called The Brand Photography Playbook because I saw that in our online world, there was such a need for visuals to really tell your story and to help you stand out. And I started specializing probably 3 or 4 years ago and helping my clients with headshots first, but then I saw a need to go a little bit deeper and tell more story and to build more connections, because many of us are in industries that are completely saturated, the coaching industry, the photography industry. So how can we really make connections and stand out from everybody else? I found that visual storytelling was a key ingredient to the success of being seen first and being heard and really differentiating yourself. And so the book sort of was a transition of me compiling all of, case studies and strategies and tips that were being asked of me and that I was sharing on podcasts or in workshops. It sort of just all unfolded in this one comprehensive guide to help people, one, create a standout brand and a message, and then 2, how to prepare for your brand photo shoot, because it can be very overwhelming, as you know, because I know you've gone through it as well, that there's just a lot of, balls in the air and things that you need to keep track of, not just logistics and styling, but like stories and strategy, because, these photos are not just pretty photos. These photos and images are to tell stories and to help build those connections with your audience.
So do you think, because we're going to jump into the images that you recommend that every entrepreneur has, and before we do that, would you say that these are relevant for those of us who maybe aren't ready to hire a photographer? Or some of your examples you're going to give today, that things that we could be doing on our own or with an iPhone, or is this much more?
No, absolutely. I mean, they are themes and stories that we can all use if we're doing a DIY with our cell phones for Instagram, or if we're making a shot list for a professional brand photographer that you're investing in. Okay. So there'll be a set of 6 images that I recommend that everybody has in what I call like your brand photo library. So that you just have enough layers to your brand in terms of storytelling that will help people remember you, recognize you, connect with you. That's more than just, something that's 2-dimensional or something that's generic and cookie cutter to what other people have.
Yeah. Okay. So should we jump on in? And if those of you out there, somebody chat and tell me, I have to check every single time to make sure, because one time I missed comments. So if someone can pop in and just confirm that you can hear us. I'm going to head over to Facebook and look as well. But Malika, why don't we start then with what your first image recommendation is?
Sure. So the first most important image is what I call your power pose, or otherwise known as your headshot. You know, anyone in business, we need this type of photo for our profile pics, for an about me page. And so I always say, really try, if you're not going to invest in any other photos, this is the one to invest in, because it will make sure to portray you as a professional, that you're legitimate, instead of, you know, a selfie or like an image that maybe you're cropping yourself out of. I think sometimes that can really tell the wrong story and give the wrong first impression. So make sure, you know, your number one image, you know, the basic image is a very strong headshot that's professional. And it doesn't have to be like those corporate stuffy shots. You can really make it your own through the colors that you're wearing, the styling, even like the backdrop. I always go for no pull down backdrop, really try to find a clean space and make sure that there's beautiful natural light coming in, so it doesn't have that flash kind of static feel. That's my preference with my clients. So that would be like the number one, is to have a professional headshot sort of in your arsenal.
Okay. And that would be what you would use on most of your social media platforms as kind of that main page, that main shot?
Yeah, like your profile pic you would use on Facebook or on Instagram. You know, when you're in all these different Facebook groups and you're doing your introduction, don't just use words to say who you are, attach a photo. And that's a great opportunity, because then people will remember you, or you might just stand out because it's not just like, hi, my name is Malika. It's that, but there's a photo also within that post.
Yeah. And I love, like, for mine, I loved doing kind of in a clean white space or at a desk or something that was more reflective of me and who I am, as opposed to just being at a generic backdrop.
Yes. And I just saw a question pop up about, should you use a headshot over a logo? And I say absolutely yes, because people do business with people, not logos, not websites. They want to see the heart of your brand, which is you. So especially in today's world where everybody is online and there are so many options for you to choose on who you want to work with. And so that first impression of seeing a real person is so, so important.
Okay. So that's your power, you called it your power pose, or your definitely your number one, right?
Well, yeah, that's the basic, you know, that is a must have.
And that you said should be professional, or we should aim to get that one at least to be professional.
I think so. Like, if you can invest in brand photography, then definitely aim for getting a professional headshot. Because, you know, especially if you're starting in business, everybody's going to be looking at that photo to see who you are and to establish that know, like, and trust factor.
Yeah.
And, you know, so just imagine, like, if you're hiring, let's say, a copywriter, and you see someone has like a selfie, which is clearly a selfie, and someone has a professional photo, you're going to lean towards the one with a professional photo, because you know they invested in themselves, that it's a legitimate, real business, instead of maybe something that's a hobby or a side hustle or something like that.
Okay, what about Lakshmi's question here about the pic of the girls, since my product is for little kids?
So I think you can have a photo of your girls within your Instagram feed, within your website, but it should not replace that introductory photo of, you know, your about me or your profile pic. You really need to be the face of your brand. It's so important in today's age to show who you are, because people are wanting to connect with the person behind the product and the service. They're really not so concerned with the product and service. They want to make sure they connect with you and your story and your passion and your personality. So I say you should definitely put your face to your brand. It doesn't mean there's not opportunity to share those layers, and we'll get into the other photos you should have. But for that particular kind of photo, which you're introducing yourself as the business owner, don't replace that picture with like a family portrait. Have a solo photo of you, because, you know, you are a professional. You should have a photo just of you.
I totally agree. Okay, what about Dara's question here of adding a logo as a watermark on your headshot?
I mean, you can add that. I mean, I'm a professional photographer and I don't use any watermarks or anything like that. I just think it's distracting. I think people like to make connection with you as a person. And sometimes if you have a logo that's on your photo, it just feels too commercial in a way. So if you're kind of a solopreneur, there is room for where your logo is going to be. If it's for your website, you're obviously going to have your logo on your website. But when it comes to like you're clicking on the About Me page, or your bio, I don't want to see your logo. I want to see a photo of you. Yeah. And then did someone just ask a question? They kind of come up and then go away about, can it be a fun picture if it's a kid's brand?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I do a more fun pic of me since it's a kid's brand? I have a professional pic as well. Yeah. And that might be what we're getting into, right? Some of
definitely. The ones like personality and stuff like that. Definitely. It doesn't have to, sometimes people think when you say headshot, it's very stiff and it's very serious, but it doesn't have to be. I think as mompreneurs and soulpreneurs, there's this overlap between personal and professional. And now that we're in this online space where, you might have a Facebook page with your personal page and people are bouncing between both, it's important to share the different layers of who you are so that people can then decide if they really, connect with you as a whole versus just from a business point of view.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you mentioned, which I remember when I did my pictures last year, it was like a week of prep to do this. But I think a lot of times people underestimate the amount that you should think about, like the colors that you're wearing and how you're styling yourself and the different outfits that you're wearing and how you want to be perceived. So I know everything I did was black, white, or hot pink, and that was the only color palette that my clothes reflected, so that it looked in line with my brand and also with my website.
Absolutely. I mean, that's important to make sure that the colors are all cohesive of what your brand is. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, like you're getting the exact color code and trying to match that, but it should just be in the same family so that when you see your website with the colors and the fonts, it all comes together beautifully. Yeah. And also I would say when you are picking your styling and your clothes, of course you want to look like yourself, but these are special portraits. You also want it to be a little bit aspirational and kind of push yourself a little bit outside of the box because you don't know where your brand is going to be in the next couple of years. So if you start dressing the part maybe of who you want to be, and we're going to get, maybe we just jump to this image. Yeah. It's called Future Forecast. So this is an image where you want to show the story of who you want to be in 3 years or 5 years. And so that can do a lot with the styling or with the props. So maybe you're not, let's say, a speaker right now, but you might want to take a photo of yourself, like with a microphone, and share it with your audience as this is a dream of mine. And you could do this very easily DIY with your cell phone and put it out there because people like to know what your aspirations are. Being transparent makes a connection with your audience. And the funny thing that happens with these types of future forecast images is that sort of momentum starts happening because you put it out there, you're sharing it, declaring it, and then next thing you know, certain possibilities or opportunities could come your way and you're more ready for it because you kind of played the part in one of your photos. So that's one of my favorite ones is that future forecast. Sometimes it can be daunting for a lot of my clients because they don't feel like they can get there yet. But I try to encourage them to make sure they have that photo in their library because you want to keep growing as a brand.
Yeah. And especially if you're hiring someone or you're doing your own mini shoot, you're already taking the time and it's best just to bang out all those photos as well. So think about those scenarios so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel later, right?
Exactly. Okay. And so the next photo that's very important, obviously, is the working girl photo. So this is how do you do the job? How do you work with your clients? What is like the actual process? Let's go back. Can you describe your own future forecast pictures? So for me, I wrote a book this past year, but part of one of the photos that I had for my brand photo shoot 2 years ago was me always holding stacks of books, me, having a book open and then writing because it was a dream of mine to maybe one day do like a coffee table book or something. And so that's an example of something that was sort of a little seed in the back of my head that I didn't know how I was going to use. But fast forward, you don't know, what happens or what unfolds. And I did end up writing a book. And now, that may or may not have helped me, but it was something that I put out there. The same thing with the example that I shared with speaking. Part of my brand photo shoot, I made sure that I had a microphone and I was in front of kind of like a blank wall to show that I wanted to maybe speak on stages or do more workshops to really, step into that leadership role. So those are just a couple of examples.
I did a microphone one as well for the podcast that I hope to one day launch, right? And also to represent speaking. So I tried to brainstorm the same way, things that I might want to have happen in the next year or two, and tried to get a shot at those.
And let me give you another example. I worked with a business coach, and she really wanted to create a global brand. She wanted to do retreats around the world. That was her dream. And so we actually did her photo shoot at an airport. I found an airport for her. We found like a small plane. I had her stand in front with a champagne glass and her suitcase and her passport, and we took a picture. And so that was her way of showing where she wanted to take this brand. She only had local, national clients. She didn't have global clients, but that photo now as part of her brand totally tells the message that she's this jet setter, that she wants to span the globe for her business. So that's another example.
That's awesome. Okay, I like that. Okay, what's the next one?
Okay, so the working girl image. Yeah, so this is kind of just showing like where you work, how you work, what do you do, what does your desk look like? You have to give your prospect or your viewer just a little insider view of your process. And, all of us are different. This is where I tell my clients that there could be certain nuggets or pieces that really help differentiate you from other people in your market. So it's a great exercise to kind of write out how you do business from A to Z, from like the onboarding to when you're finished. And maybe it's like you, when you work with, if you're a coach and you're working with a client, at the very end, you give a beautiful gift to your client. You might think that that's normal, but you know what? Not every coach does that. So having a picture of what that gift looks like, what that experience might feel like, could be another image in your library that helps differentiate you from other people. So I would definitely say write out your steps of how you work with your clients, and then either do it yourself, take pictures. I always take pictures of my to-do lists. I know I've been, following your Instagram, the quotes and things that you have. These are pieces of like how you do business, things that inspire you as you do business. Little things like that, they really, when you put them all together as pieces of a puzzle, they really tell your brand story well.
And I think this is a good one for those who are trying to grow their Instagram following and say they can't think of things to post or they run out of ideas. I think like showing you in action in the process is a great way on Insta stories and also on Instagram. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. I mean, it's that behind the scenes. It's that like insider access. People really want to know how you do business. They don't always want to see the beautiful outcome. They kind of want to see the messy, the crazy, the good, bad, the ugly, as transparent as you can be. I think that's what makes you authentic and real and can really create connection with your audience. I mean, you just took a picture of this, what we're doing, and that's part of what you do. Maybe you're going to share that, part of your brand is doing these live Facebook events, and that's so smart to do because there's so many facets to what we do as, business owners.
So I know we have like an organizer on here and a professional trainer on here. And so thinking about showing some of those in action shots of you or the business owner actually doing the service or helping clients.
Or where you go. Like I worked with a professional organizer, take us on the journey of your business. Are you going to the Container Store? And how are you shopping? When you meet with your client, how are you pulling everything out? Show us the mess. show us the in progress, and then show us the after, of course. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to really educate your audience on what your process is like. And you shouldn't assume that they already know, because they don't. We only know what we do.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so that's the working girl.
Okay, so the next one I call your passion portrait. And so what I mean about this is about the emotion of what it feels like to work with you. How do you feel about your business? What excites you? What lights you up? And then what is the experience like with your clients and working with you? You know, if you're, you know, there's so many health coaches, let's say. Maybe you're a health coach that's really playful and fun. Maybe you're a health coach that's more spiritual and calm. So you want to make sure that this sort of vibe is communicated to your audience so that they know what's the right fit for them. And I love this kind of a portrait because it really speaks to the feeling of what it's like to work with you. And that's what people are searching for is, you know, will I connect with this person? Will I like to work with this person? Because it's a relationship most of us have with our clients. It's not just transactional. There's a relationship. So this is an opportunity for you to really communicate the feeling of your brand. So for example, for my brand, you know, I have a very kind of inspirational, fun-loving, colorful type of brand. So you might find a lot of champagne drinking, wine drinking, you know, things like that are just very celebratory and fun. You'll see a lot of social gatherings. So it's good to kind of get in tune with the personality of your brand and the feelings of your brand, and then try to visualize that.
So is that, to Lakshmi's question earlier, can I do a more fun pic of me since it's a kid's brand? That would fall under this category?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, and people they want to feel that personality. So if you're a kid's brand, definitely incorporate the playful and the curious and all of those things that go along with what you're selling and who you're selling it to.
Okay.
Thank you, Brooke. That's so nice.
I know, Brooke. That's what I said too. Brooke just said, "I wish you lived closer to me." Okay, so that is that's the playful, that's the passion, as you say, passion portrait. So
passion portrait.
Playful, and also just evoking more of the brand feeling,
expression, mood, that sort of thing.
Okay.
What it really feels like to work with you. So the next one I call your lifestyle lens. So this is about you as a person, the things that you're interested in. What are your hobbies? What are your interests? Let's get a little bit deeper in terms of who you are, because there's a lot of connection points there. So, you know, I worked with a personal stylist, but obviously she loved fashion and style, but all fashion stylists do, right? So we started telling a story about how she's also this Iron Man, how she's like this fitness fanatic, and she wakes up at 5 a.m. and she's running and she's biking, and we incorporated pictures of that. And that was just another connection point for her that gave her a little bit more depth and differentiation from other people. So I know a lot of us sometimes are afraid to get too personal with our brands, but there are opportunities for you to share stories of the things that you love to do. You know, what are the pastimes that you spend with your family, or, you know, what are your hobbies, or things that you may have done in your past. Just they kind of all come together to help tell your story. So it's not singular. There's so many different layers to your story. So this is just another opportunity for you to have a photo that shares more of that personal side of you.
And as we always say, you are your brand when you own a business, right? So this is just humanizing you and helping to enhance your personal brand, which then makes people more likely to work with you or get to know you more.
Yes. And then this is a great one that's so easy for Instagram. You know, if you're a foodie, take pictures of your food and share. Obviously, keep the content relevant to who your target is and make sure it's not random and unintentional. Be strategic, but you know, it's an opportunity to kind of take people on the ride of what your life is like, more than just the business side.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like those pictures always get the most likes.
Exactly. Because people are interested in you. You know, they want to know more about who you are. It's like people always say, it's not just the products and services that you're offering. They really want to connect with the person and the why and their purpose. And they want to feel like a connection to that more than just the delivery of the actual product and service.
Okay. Do we have one?
Yes, we have one more. So the last one I call storytelling stock. So this is like all of the everyday stuff that might be in your life that really can help bridge the gaps in all of your stories. And so for me, some of the things that I try to photograph for my clients are, books that are on your bookshelf, things that are in your office. Maybe they're quotes or art or cards. You do this all the time in your Instagram feed. Sometimes those messages on those things that you have in your house really speak louder to what your values are and who you are and what you believe in and the philosophies that you have than writing out a caption. It's a quicker, more direct way. And then you're kind of pulling, again, people into that everyday things that are surrounding you that, that make up your home and your life. It just adds another dimension to your brand.
Yeah. And I also think it's for those of you who, again, struggle with trying to be consistent on Instagram and other platforms and figuring out what to include. A lot of times those stock in your home and or quotes are great fillers that also represent who you are, right?
Yes, definitely. Like, you have coffee mugs that have sayings on it, journal. You can go to Home Goods and just like buy a whole truckload of stuff that you can use for your brand. And then again, make sure that if the colors are consistent with your colors, that's like bonus. But there are journals that have sayings on them. There are, candles, there's flowers, there's, plants you can use. There's so many different things that you can just bring together, even jewelry or makeup. They're like things that you can use to just supplement what your story is.
Yeah. And I have a confession. I've totally done this, like gone to Paper Source or Home Goods and bought a bunch of things and staged it and then took it back and returned it. So I'm just, I don't know if other people, but I have done that before. But let's talk for a few minutes, since we have just a couple minutes left, about because Malika's really good. Your Instagram handle is at Miki Photo, is that right?
With the at Miki Photo Co. So MIKIFOTO.
Yeah, so you should follow her because she does an awesome job. She's really consistent and does great Insta posts. So I thought maybe you could give a few tips for those of us who are trying to build our Instagram following, like creating images. I know you have some good tips for us that are not professional photographers, right?
Sure. So I think the most important thing is to consider your feed kind of like your own personal magazine. And so you want to make sure that it's not random, that it's actually like a beautiful visual representation of what your brand should be. And so that means that the look should be consistent. So whenever you're editing, you shouldn't be using 1,000 different filters. Pick one filter and make sure that whatever recipe that is, you're applying to every single photo so that it looks cohesive. Mm-hmm. And I always say, instead of picking a theme, like if you're in fitness, then only you show fitness posts, I say pick a style, an aesthetic. So if it's clean and modern or bright and colorful or moody, whatever it is, pick a style first. And then you might find that some of your content isn't just about fitness, because normally it isn't, right? You might be talking about fitness, and you might be talking about food, and you might be talking about networking and entrepreneurship. So it's good first to find out what your aesthetic is and define that, and then make sure everything is very consistent in terms of the look. That is like the most important part, I think, of Instagram, is because the feeds that are random and they have like different filters, they don't get the engagement, just because people now are spoiled in seeing really beautiful feeds. So that is tip number one. I know that there are a lot of questions here, so I can answer. I can't see them.
Oh, okay. Let me read them to you, and then you can finish other tips. Lakshmi says, does number 5 in the images we talked about, like style lens, need to be more of the Instagram stories? I'm afraid number 5 might not seem on brand to have fitness and fashion stuff if she is doing more of a kids brand, let's say?
Well, so if you're speaking about the lifestyle lens, I think, you have to think about who your target is and what are the things that they are really interested in, where they're hanging out, what are they reading, what are they interested in? And probably if they're attracted to your brand, there probably is some overlap. So find the pieces that you have overlap, and then you can include that in your brand library or in your Instagram feed. And what it just does is it adds, again, just another layer of who you are, where they get in a perspective of who you are as a person versus a business owner. And it's not to say you should be posting every single picture in your Instagram should be like, I'm interested in dancing, I'm interested in skiing, I'm interested, no, it's strategic. So it's like maybe every 6 posts, there's a lifestyle image that's there. And that can go back to one of my other tips for Instagram is to being very intentional about what you're posting. Think about how it's all sort of mapping out in those 9, in the 9 that you see.
Yeah.
So, the content has to be varied. It can't always be, let's say, a headshot of you for 9 boxes. People are going to get turned off. It's too much of a self-promotion. But let's say it's an educational tip, and I'm going to just keep it in the fitness. Let's say you're teaching them a workout. And then the next one might be a headshot of you and a little bit about how you started. Maybe the next image is about how your clients feel after they work out with you. And maybe it's a picture of your client and not you. Maybe the next one is an inspirational quote that you really believe in. Maybe the next one then is a lifestyle shot of you, something that you are interested in that's outside of fitness. Maybe it's more about cooking or meditation. It's all within that wellness and health field, but it's not exactly what you do every day. So I hope that helps in answering that.
Okay. Brooke says, what is your opinion on having a business and a personal page or combining the two? I think she's talking specifically about Instagram. So I only have a business and it could be just because of time. The flip-flopping, I just don't have enough time to do that. And I feel like my business is really a reflection of my personal brand. And so it is who I am. And I don't show a lot of pictures of like my kids or my husband or my friends. It's sprinkled in there. Because that is who I am, but it's not like back to back to back. So I'm pretty strategic again about how I share that personal content. But I just think a lot of us as mompreneurs, as soulpreneurs, there's such an overlap between the personal and the professional that for efficiency and to be sharing at like optimal creativity, sometimes it helps just to have one handle and sharing it. And plus, if you are a business, you get all of those analytics, which are so you don't get on a personal feed. So you can understand who your market is. You can understand what posts are getting the most traction that are highly engaged. And then there are the buttons on the business Instagrams that are the direct contact, where they can email you or call you, which you don't have on the personal. So it's just, I don't know. I feel like definitely have a business Instagram. And then you might want to consider, if you are a personal brand, you might want to consider just having one. Do you have just one? I only have a personal. I don't have a business. So maybe.
Oh, you should switch it to business.
Yeah. Okay.
Because then you can.
Talk about that.
Yes, we will. Yeah.
But what you were saying earlier, I totally agree. I'm pretty strategic in like a Monday motivation quote. A style post maybe once a week, because people, even though that has nothing to do with the business that I offer, those seem to have the most engagement and like the most reactions. And then, having my kids every so often and like looking at my feed to see how long it's been since I've had a family post or have I had too many, so I think,
right. Well, that's smart. You have to do it that way. And because it's intentional, then it's really well planned. And you can even create a schedule for yourself where it's Monday is the motivation. Maybe Tuesday is the tip. Maybe Wednesday is a client profile. Maybe Thursday is a behind the scenes. And just create a schedule for yourself so that it's a no-brainer. Because I think that sometimes is the hang-up where you're like, oh my God, what am I going to post today? But if you have a schedule, it makes it so much easier. Another tip I would say is to make it easier for you to post is to make sure you're taking pictures wherever you go. Create a bank for yourself of images that you don't, a lot of people are like, oh, I just took this picture. I need to post it right now. You don't need to post it right now. You can save it for that day. That might be your Tip Tuesday, but create a bank while you're running around. There's inspiration everywhere, signs or, people or places, and then your process, where people want to know where you're going. If you're at a networking event, take pictures there. If you are working on launching a course, take a picture of all of the material that you're working on, like that behind the scenes. Just create a bank of all of this content so that you can then reveal it in a way that has much more strategy and is much more planned behind it.
Yes. And that's what I do with some of those flat lays. Like, what's your tip on the flat lays? I
love the flat lay. I think, it's been around for a few years, but I think people don't tire from them because they're just fun and they're easy to create. And again, it's taking all of that, what I call that storytelling stock, all of that stuff that's in your house and designing it in a creative, fun way that gives people the snapshot of like what you're working on, what you're thinking about, what are the things that you like in a very creative way. And it's easy. All you need are, poster board and, and I would say take some time, do like 30 minutes and create a bunch of flat lays. So batch it so that it's not like one flat lay that you created and then you turn around and do something else. Do a lot because sometimes it's that setup time, getting everything out that takes the most time, right?
You need good lighting for that, for sure.
Yes, right, exactly. But I love the flat lay.
I know. I try to batch them because it takes forever to get the whole setup right, So, okay. So Dara has a question, and then if you guys have any other questions, you want to get them in because I told her it'd only be a half hour, and we've gone over our time. Dara's question: I have my social media calendar planned through April. Oh, that's not a question.
Wow. Good for you.
Bragging statement. Good for you. I don't even know what I'm doing next week. Okay, so does anybody else have any questions or comments for Malika? And any other last minute Insta tips or other brand photo tips before we go?
So some of the apps that I love to use for my Instagram, the first one I always use is called Pick Tap Go. It's $1.99, but it's the best $1.99 you'll spend. They have a lot of really nice filters. But what I like most about this app is that you can use a filter, but adjust the opacity. And then you can layer on different ones to create the look that fits your brand. And then once you create that look, then you can save that recipe to apply to other photos in the future. So it's not like you're starting from okay.
You're not
starting from scratch anymore. And so when you do filters, I always warn my clients and my students, like, don't just slap on a filter and then walk away. You can really adjust the opacity so that it fits the look that you're trying to create. I think people can tell now when, you're just putting on like Juno and then you walk away or all, some of those filters. You really need to just spend a little bit more time so that the look is consistent with yours. Another app that I like is Moldiv, Moldiv. I use that for collages, and that's free. And then for text, like if I want to have an image and create a graphic with text, I use Over, Over. That's one of my favorite ones.
Over.
Over, yes.
Okay. Okay, so sorry, hold on, I'm reading all these. Okay, we've got Ella loves Pick Tap Go. Any tips on creating a cohesive look for pics? I have a lot of my kids in various places. So is that just pretty much using the filters, right, to create a cohesive look that way, would you say?
Yes. So if we're talking like aesthetic, a style of the look, I would say play around with the filters, figure out like which one you really like that fits your brand. So, there's certain looks, like, is it clean and modern? Is it moody and neutral? Is it rustic? Like, you should have an idea of what your brand is like, and then try to pick a filter that might match that, but play around and experiment. And then once you find that look, write down sort of the percentages if you can, or if you can't, save it, and then try to reapply that. And the thing with Instagram is you're not going to see it overnight. You're not going to be like, oh, my feed now is beautiful. It takes time, and it takes a rhythm, and you have to just keep kind of plugging away and applying it. And then soon enough, you'll see that there is a look or a signature look that you're creating for your brand.
Okay. And people were asking, so Moldive was Moldive. Is that right?
It's no E at the end. So Moldiv. And that's free. I use that for my collages.
For collages. And then Over
for text, like adding text on top of photos. I also use VSCO, VSCO, which is Visual Supply Company. That's free. A lot of photographers love that app because it almost has like a film kind of quality. But I have to say that Pick Tap Go I love the most, just because I can save that recipe. Another good one is called A Color Story. If you like bright and clean whites and vibrancy, A Color Story is a good app as well.
Okay, awesome. And I also like Word Swag for the sayings and the just like the text ones too. Okay, so with that, we are going to probably sign off, but Malika, give the shout out. Well, first of all, she has a download that we're going to post in the comments that kind of recaps the 6 images that she's talking about. So you'll find that in the comments after this, so definitely head over and do that. And then where else can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Miki Photo & Co. or on my website is Miki Photo, MIKIFOTO.com. And, although I'm in New Jersey, which isn't too far from you guys, my Instagram handle is at Miki Photo Co. And maybe I can put it in the comments so that it makes it easier. Although I'm in New Jersey, I do a lot of consultations on the phone for people that might be looking to do a brand photo shoot. And then my book, again, is a good resource to help you if you're not local to me.
Yeah, and her book's beautiful, so you should check it out. Okay, and we're going to let you know the next time we're going to try to meet up, I guess, hopefully soon.
Yeah, let's do it again. I love it.
Yeah. So we'll let the whole tribe know, so whoever wants to come. Okay, so thank you to Malika. Thank you all for tuning in. I will be back next Tuesday, 2:30 Eastern. Not quite sure what the topic is, but if you want to post in the comments a subject that you are dying to hear about, I am happy to try to address it. And until then, we'll see you in the Mompreneur Tribe, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye.
Thank you.